Hey guys, what's up? So today we're going to be looking at sample statistics and population parameters. Okay guys? And we're going to define what these two mean, a sample and a population parameter. Okay? It says here, when conducting a survey, it is often impossible to ask every individual who might be concerned or involved. For example, how do all, right? It says all the Americans feel about President Trump. Now, because there are over 310 million Americans, which is a lot of people, Jamaica only has how many people, guys? I think Jamaica has 2.7 million people, right? I think it would probably be more reasonable to ask 2.7 million people how they feel about Andrew Holness, right? But it's really not reasonable to ask 310 million people how they feel about the president, right? Because there are just too many people. 310 million people is just, man, I can't even fathom, right? The data is impossible to collect. Therefore, we must take a sample of the population, right? Okay, so right here we're going to define what a sample is. A sample is a smaller group of members of a population selected to represent the population, right? So this is a very good definition. It's a smaller group of members of a population selected to represent the population, right? So that's what a sample is. So if you were to ask a set of people how do they feel about President Trump, if you ask some people in California, you're likely to get a bad result, right? Because most of the people in California actually voted for Hillary Clinton, right? They're Hillary supporters. But if you ask people in Texas, right, the Texas, many people would be like, great, we love President Trump, all right? Which is probably true, right? And that's okay. It really doesn't matter who they support. They choose who they want to support. That's what voting is about, you know? So, right. So you can ask a small group of people from California how they feel about President Trump, and you can ask a small group of people from Texas how they feel, and but you can't use how people feel, especially how people feel, for the whole population. All right, it's a really big world out there, guys. It's a massive world. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people feel that their opinion matters these days, but it really doesn't, guys. Most people just don't care. All right. So that's why we need samples. That's why we need statistics because we really need to separate opinions from just a reality, right? And that's the best part about mathematics, guys. You get to see the reality of things, you're not really focused on how you feel. You're more focused on what is, okay? We need to know what is exactly going on. Yeah, let's focus on the let's focus on the sample, right? So basically, guys, you want a sample of the population. You want a set of people. So for example, let us say you wanted to ask a set of people how they feel about the JLP and Andrew Holness's leadership, right? If you ask a set of people in Jamaica about this, it's going to be a sample because you can't ask everybody, right? You really can't. You just can't. You can't ask. And some people may ask children how they feel, and some children may not care. And it really doesn't matter what some people feel, right? It may be important to ask the voters, right? Who is actually going out there to vote what they feel. So there are different types of samples. You can do a random sample from the population, right? So you can just randomly go around. You can do it at your school. You can do it if you want to, guys. You can create a questionnaire, right? And ask people how many people would watch a football TV show, right? Where they have a reality show about football stars like Messi and Ronaldo and so on. How many people would watch that? And you can do a survey. You may get good results, you may get bad results. And you can do another one like how many people would watch a show related to. You can do a questionnaire asking many questions about how many people would watch a show related to Cardi B, right? And her husband, Offset, and their child, right? Culture, I think that's her name, Culture, or whatever, right? And I'm sure a lot of girls would be like, yes, I would watch that. I'm so interested, right? So that's basically what statistics are about, guys. You really want information to know what's going on. You don't want to focus on what people feel, okay? People feel a lot of things, man. As human beings, we feel all types of things. You get up in the morning, you're like, oh, I don't feel like going to work today, and you get to work and you feel great. You're like, I'm wondering why I didn't even feel like going to work. You know, it's not good to get caught up in your feelings, right? It's good to understand your feelings, but not to get caught up in it. It's just best to focus on what's actually real, right? Yeah, it's good to focus on reality. All right, guys. And statistics brings you closer and closer to reality. That's the best part about it. Now, remember this definition, guys. A sample is a smaller group of members of a population selected to represent the population. And that's what we're going to be focusing on, guys. Sample statistics. And we're going to be focusing on population parameters. So let's go further into what population parameters are. All right, guys. All right, guys. So we're going to be looking at the term a population parameter, right? In comparison to what a sample statistic is. So the term population can be any group from which information is required. And we're going to give some examples here. The population of Cardi B's followers on Instagram, that should be a lot of people. Adult voters in Trinidad, male students in your class, and female students in your classroom, right? So it says here if the population is too large, then we can only take a statistic. But if you are able to actually count the number of people for the study, then the information would not be called a sample statistic. It would actually be called a parameter, right? So basically what it's saying here is that anytime you have a parameter, right, this parameter is a numerical characteristic for your entire population. So that means that you can actually count every single person and ask every single person a question based on whatever you may want to do. For example, if you want to do a questionnaire, or if you want to do a bar chart in terms of how many people in your school, actually how many females in your school um, actually like Cardi B, or whatever the case may be, you just have to make sure you have that exact amount of females in your class, right? So in that case, if the number of female students in your class, you can count the male students in your class, you can count this, right? You can count this. You can count the adult voters in Trinidad, and you can count the number of Cardi B followers on Instagram to a certain extent. So that's the reason why these are parameters, and these are examples of parameters, right? So I think that pretty much wraps this section up. CXC actually wants us to differentiate both of these. So we have differentiated a parameter from a sample statistic. Okay, so for a statistic, for a sample statistic, it doesn't represent the entire population, right? So many of the statistics are like, 1 in 10,000 people. You understand what I'm saying? While the parameter would be all the people that you need, right? Cool. So it's rather simple, and CXC wants you to know how to differentiate those. And we're going to move on, guys. We're going to move on to bar charts and very interesting things in statistics going forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, guys. So that's it. And I'll see you in the next lecture. And remember to do your best, and God will do the rest.